Yes. Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination to kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week. It's sponsored by Hercules Credit Union and Beehive Meals.
Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith talking about the NHL coming to Salt Lake City. Quote, I have incredible faith in the people of Utah. We show up, it'll be packed. Are you going to be part of the package? Sarge, I'll be there.
Sarge?
Sarge, at Sarge Ute.
I told you I used to listen to Phoenix Sports Talk Radio from midnight to 10, or the other way around. From
you listen to it backwards.
10 to midnight.
Yeah.
And he had these slew of callers, and they were regulars. I mean, almost like every night, at least multiple times a week. And one of them was Sarge from West Phoenix.
You think this is him?
And he would complain that he doesn't have the money to go. I ain't got the bucks, John. I used to hear that phrase. I ain't got the bucks, John. I'll just go down to the park and watch him play, John. I hear you, Sarge. And he would call him, and they had Graham. And Graham was a grandma, and she hated boxing, thought it was barbaric. I just don't understand it, John. Well, Graham, it was like this. It would be like 3-4 times a week because I worked at Parks and Rec in North Phoenix, and then I'd have to drive to Tempe. So it was like a 45-minute drive. I'd get off at 10 o'clock every night, and I'd listen to it with a friend of mine. You know my friend. And we'd listen in his yellow Nova.
Oh, wow.
The yellow Nova with black stripes that I saw on the episode of Chips when we were in the San Fernando Valley. And I actually saw the one episode of Chips. We were turning left on a stoplight, and there was Ponch and whatever the other guy's
Ponch
name
and John.
was. Oh, I couldn't remember. And they were both, I could have touched them. And then we looked around, and there was all these cameras. And we would listen, and then he had another guy named Kenny. Oh, Kenny, he was very smart. And then he called another dude Contro because he stirred controversy every time he called.
Contro? That was his nickname?
Yeah.
Hey, Contro.
I mean, these guys are... And
they're regular, like they're like a cast.
Yeah,
characters.
I remember them. Yeah. So when you said Sarge, that's what I thought.
Cal says, I work nights, and I'm trying to figure out a way to change my work schedule so I can get season tickets. I'm all in.
Nice. Very nice.
Jake says, my dad and I have already decided we're buying season tickets, and we're not even hockey fans. Laughing, crying emoji.
How many hockey fans that are not currently hockey fans will be converted into hockey fans?
How much are they going to win?
A bunch will.
Well, I mean, they're probably not going to win right at the start.
I don't think it really matters on the winning.
He doesn't think it matters.
I'm surprised by that.
I think winning is irrelevant to the
winning
issue.
helps, but I believe the fact that we've been so starved for professional sports here in Salt Lake, people will embrace it.
Famished. We've gone 40 days and 40 nights.
The famine.
There's two people I've listened to use the word famished, and you're one of them. My mother used to say famished all the time. She was never hungry. She was famished.
Right.
So dramatic.
Well, she was an English lit teacher.
Yes, she was.
She was?
She was.
How about that? I guessed.
Not English lit, but English
Let's
teacher.
hear it for Nyla.
Yeah, you finally looked up her name a 48th time and remembered it?
No, because you wouldn't tell me. Like, I couldn't care less, but the fact you wouldn't tell me bugged me.
Good.
So I went in. You can type in legacy. I typed your father's name, and there it was.
There it is. Yep. Good for you. It's all out there. Go find it. Everything's good. Yay.
Yeah. The woman was famished.
Famished.
Right.
I'm famished.
It was famished for big league sports here.
Ben says, I will be there, just like I am for the Jazz, the Bees, and Real Salt Lake.
But not the Royals or the Warriors?
Well, what I noticed was not the Cougars and not the Utes.
Because he's a pro sports person.
Yeah. And I remember you saying the Valley really changed, referring to the Valley of the Sun, a.k.a. Phoenix. When all the pro teams showed up, the college sports were lessened. And college sports have been so important here. They have been such a big deal. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to believe that they could be lessened. And yet, listening to you talk and then looking at what happened in Arizona from a distance, looks like they have been lessened.
There's no question they have.
They've literally
Particularly college football, yeah.
Yeah, well, in both the basketball arena and the football stadium at Arizona State, they shrunk the size of them. They remodeled the football stadium. Made it smaller.
I don't think basketball was.
They put in some fake. What did they do with some fake walls?
It was
or
a
something?
wall, but they've taken it out. But I don't think basketball was ever.
It was never big enough to be diminished.
Well, I can't speak to anything that I know. And when I moved there, the Suns were already there. They had been there for many years. Yeah. So that was a different situation.
And also, we're not getting the NFL here. And they got it there, and the NFL's the big dog. And how much of the damage that was done to college sports there, especially college football, was done by the NFL. Uh-huh. So to a certain degree, maybe it's just going to turn out to be apples and oranges here. We will get our football fix from college football.
Right, because, football season will start in August with training camp. Well, if you listen to Phoenix Talk Radio, which I do a fair amount, they don't talk about the colleges. It's all about the Cardinals. And that's the seasons overlap. Here,
it'll be a different deal. The seasons won't overlap in the same way.
Not for basically 3 months. All of August, they talk about and obsess. September, and then a good part of October. And then at that point, as you roll into November, your season has already taken shape. You either stink, or you're striving for a bowl game, or you're really good. And if you're really good, people will be into it. If the Devils should roll out a 10-win season, people will be into it. Especially now when they have a local guy who keeps pumping that up. But yeah, there's no question it took a major hit here. And I don't buy the theory that, and I know Kevin Graham put it out there, and he used to work in the Phoenix market, nobody is from there. I think that's an old take. I think that there's so many folks who moved there and then had families. Like both of my sisters. They still speak with a Jersey accent.
Do the kids tend to stay there? And I don't know if you have any science on this. You may just have a few, handful of personal experiences. But do the kids who grow up there tend to stay there?
There's so many people that the answer is to quote Kurt Kragthorpe, yes and no.
Nice. I enjoyed that.
Like, for instance, my sister's kids, they were born there, and they still live there.
They stayed there.
Yeah. Back east, they call it going to the shore. They don't call it going to the beach. And my wife one time asked my niece, so you guys going to the shore? She looked at her like, what? Because she was thinking Jersey, but they don't call it that. They're Phoenix people. So I think there's enough Phoenix people here. And I wonder here, how will it be? Because we are having a lot of folks move here, and we see it with the Laker games. Right? There's so many of the Californians and all that stuff. How will it be here? Will they adopt it as their own? Because the thought being, well, in Phoenix, they come from Michigan and they bring their Michigan allegiances. Mm-hmm. Well, we have that here too. I wonder what the ratio is. There's huge numbers, but there's also far more people. So what's the ratio of people who live here that are from here versus live here and came from other places?
That number may exist out there somewhere. I don't know what it is.
I wonder how close that is to what they have down in the Phoenix area.
I would think, and it may be an old take, I would think the number in Phoenix, way more transplants. Way more locals.
But there's way more locals there, too.
And then there's more of everybody. You're right. I mean, they've got way more population.
I think that's an outdated philosophy. And when does it become you're from someplace else, but this is your home? And this is, like, for me, I wasn't born there, but I consider that my home. Because I go to New Jersey once every 4 or 5 years. I go to Phoenix once every 4 or 5 months. Actually, less than that, particularly
It's
from
way
December to April.
Yeah, it's way closer. It's easier to get to.
Yeah.
And your immediate family is
Right.
Your more immediate family, your siblings are in Arizona.
Right. And
It's
my parents
cousins
were, and the same thing with my wife. Both of our sets of parents are gone now because, as Dave Rose told me last night, you're old.
You're old.
I am, no doubt about it. So I wonder, that same thing here. So how many will latch on? But it's hockey, and it's not like it's like, for instance, the L.A. It's not the Dodgers. It's not the Lakers, where it's that lifelong connection.
And you pick the two teams in L.A. that are most likely to have that. Those are the two best branded teams of all the.
Right,
they
exactly.
basically have two of everything there. And those are the two that are branded the best.
And I appreciate Ryan Smith's enthusiasm, and this is just me naturally, my personality, I have a little bit of skepticism because I don't think that people are celebrating it right now the way it should be. And there's no need to wait. I saw somebody from the news put on a thing on social media. Well, there's no information. It's hush hush. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
They're coming. It's going to happen. It's happening as we speak. It will do. They're going to have a big party here very soon. And how much of it is going to be latched on, and people are really, really going to embrace it? Will it be packed each and every, like it is across the street at Delta Center? And when they build the new hockey arena, will we be forced not to say the? Will the employees be told, if you say the, and I can't believe Will Hardy gets away with it, the flagrant violation. He says it all the time, the Delta Center. Get in line,
because
buddy.
He knows what's up.
He didn't know what's down. And those folks can't say it. Jake Scott cannot say the Delta Center.
He could.
No, he cannot.
Chooses not to.
Only you do. Because you're just a flagrant rule violator. It's why Nyla pulled her hair out and she turned gray far more earlier than she should have because of you. The oldest of the sibling, you set the bad example for the other two.
Yeah,
That's why they've had all their trouble in their lives.
I'm going to go over to the Delta Center, okay?
Well, I hope you get hit by tracks.
Thank you.
That escalated quickly.
Well, if he's not going to be, he's just going to be a flagrant rule violator. What time does the game start? Eastern time.
9:30.
Okay. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. And I have to believe that Ryan Smith knows what he's talking about more than I do. Because I don't think, let's just have a hockey team. I think there's got to be some type of research and all that stuff.
He owns a company called Qualtrics. I think he has.
So it'd be easy. No, he doesn't. Actually, you're wrong.
He sold a lot of it. He still has shares in it.
He runs a company.
He does run the company. And he has access to the ability to do a little research and figure this out.
And so you have to think that they have that extensive research of what the support will be. So there's a level of trust I have in him when he makes those statements.
There's the next chapter, assuming the baseball expansion happens. And probably not right away, but let's say by 2030.
Does that cut into it? How much?
Right now, I think they have to sell about 750,000 Jazz tickets. 18,306 times 41 games. I think that gets around 750,000.
Is that what it is? 18,306? You know the exact number?
Sell it out all the time. It's on the little stat sheet.
I never look at the little stat sheet.
18,306.
I just watch the games. Stats are... I don't give a bleep what the stats are.
Yeah, but when you're sitting waiting for Will's press conference to start, they hand you the piece of paper. And there it is.
You don't have to take it. When I walk down Vegas, I don't hear for a good time. I don't take all those little pamphlets they hand out.
Well, stop walking down the street in Vegas. What kind of a neighborhood are you hanging out in? The Strip?
Well, it's Vegas. It's what they do. But
so
they got their
Jazz tickets,
and they're meeting that.
And in the short run, yeah, and they are. In the short run, there'll probably be about 500,000 hockey tickets because they're going to have about 2/3 of the capacity of the arena, roughly. Now that will get upgraded, and probably have to move about 750,000 of those eventually. And then baseball shows up, and are they planning on drawing 1.5 million or 2 million or 2.5 million? I mean, you look around at different Major League Baseball clubs. Those are the ballpark that most of the attendance is in.
Uh-huh.
Ballpark humor, thank you. Are there going to be enough people here with enough passion for sports to pay the prices and fill those seats? I mean, part of filling the seats is what's it going to cost to go to a hockey game? I was listening to one of the guys from, I don't remember which guy they had on from Arizona on one of Scotty and Hans' shows, and he was saying that the average ticket price in the NHL was around $160 or $170 a game.
They're the hockey show, aren't they?
They are evolving into that, yeah. They've done a lot of, they've embraced it. Brevin. Oh, it's the opposite of Ron Boone.
What?
Well, Booner. Oh, hell no. You got that drop? That's a great Booner drop. Brevin. Hell yeah. I'll be there 10 times what I am for the Jazz.
Okay, if you're not there for...
Zero.
Hell no.
There it is, yeah.
So if you're not there for...
If you're there for 0 Jazz games, 10 times 0 is 0. But assuming you go to a game once in a while, now 10 games a year.
Which, as a kid, I never understood that, guys. If I got a number here and then I have 0, why is the equation equal to 0? Why wouldn't it be 10? I never understood that. And I still, to this day, do not understand it.
We'll work on your math skills during the break.
I don't have any math skills.
Coming up next, Jay Drew, BYU beat writer for the Deseret News, on the new head coach, Kevin Young. That's at 8:30. Mike Weir, former Masters champ, at 9 o'clock. Stay tuned for that. TJ and PK, it's 97.5, The Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
I feel bad for Coyotes fans. I feel bad for the players and staff. They were let down by bad management. The good news is there's going to be new management in town. You know that restaurant you go to that's really bad? You're like, I'm never going back there again. And you drive by there like a year later and you see that sign says new management. The Coyotes are getting new management. And everything's going to be different for these players, the coaches, the staff. The general manager is going to have money to spend. The players are going to be playing in a big sold-out arena here at Delta Center. But it's happening, and new management is definitely in town. It's Ryan Smith, and he's going to take over this franchise, and he's going to make it special.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Golfers, you don't want to miss You Into Golf. The multi-vendor demo and fitting event is this Saturday from 10 to 4 at Mulligan's Golf and Games. This big one-day event is your chance to demo the hottest new products, meet with golf manufacturer reps, and get custom fit for your new clubs. And all purchases are all backed by the 90-day, 100% satisfaction guarantee. Go to theworldwidegolf.com and book your custom fitting today. Remember, it's all this Saturday at Mulligan's Golf and Games. Get there. DJ BK and Jay Drew joins us once again. BYU beat writer for the Deseret News. Jay, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Jay, you didn't seem very eager to pop up and be on TV last night. I couldn't help it. Your former tag team partner, Patrick Kinahan, couldn't wait right there. You seem to be wired differently, Jay. I thought you'd rush to the spotlight a little more.
No, that's not me. I wasn't really thrilled with the whole setup, so it took me a little bit of warming up to do, I guess. I mean, who holds a press conference at 7 p.m.? I guess that was my biggest problem with the whole thing. But I warmed up to it, and it turned out fine.
I thought Kevin Young was a smashing success for press conferences as far as those go. They talk about winning the press conference. I think that BYU won before they even had the press conference. The amount of enthusiasm has been incredible. And I think people saw that, maybe they didn't see earlier that Mark Pope was in it for himself and his sights were always set on Kentucky and he was going to use BYU to be able to get what he wanted. And he did, so good for him. So they won it. But now it's a matter of getting players. Start out with the guys in the portal. What do you think the chances of them are returning to BYU?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Obviously guys got other things going on, but who was there last night? For BYU, it was a good sign. I think that Dallin Hall was there. Shows that he's at least willing to listen and see. So my guess is chances of him coming back are pretty good. Just seems like one of those BYU type of kids, a local kid. And so I would say, good chance for him. Ali Khalifa in the portal, he's narrowed it down to Louisville, Kentucky, and BYU. And the fact that he had a no contact kind of clause or whatever in his portal listing is probably a pretty good sign for BYU. But it just seems to me, I think he'll end up at Kentucky. I really do. I think he's more of a Mark Pope guy and likes that offense that Mark Pope ran with him kind of as a point center, as it were. And then, the Richie Saunders, I didn't see Richie there last night. I don't know if anybody else did. I was kind of perusing Twitter to see, but I'm kind of 50-50 on Richie. I just can't get a good read on it, what he's going to do. So I think for BYU, obviously best case scenario is all three of those guys come back, but I think a more realistic kind of is probably two of them. And if they don't get any of them, that's not a good sign, obviously.
Your point about the 7 o'clock press conference, I assumed that tied into that they were working around the coach's schedule because Kevin Young is coaching in two places and he's still with the Suns. And so I assumed he had responsibilities earlier in the day in Arizona and then had to get up there. I don't know that. We had a limited amount of time to interview him, and I didn't want to spend time on that, but that's what I figured that it was. And I think that goes to the bigger point about putting a roster together for this year. Everything happens so quickly. I'm sure he'll work hard at it, but I'm also sure he's just not going to have as many hours in the day to work at it as everybody else. And he's going to be a first-time head coach, and he's back in the college ranks after years away. As much as there's big-picture enthusiasm for him, it seems to me like there's reason to tamp the enthusiasm down in the short run. Keep it for the long run, that's fine. But in the short run, it seems like it could be a bumpy ride. And maybe he's got the magic and it won't be. But it seems like there's some things stacked up against him here early on. Do you buy all that?
Oh, for sure. I think that's got to be the biggest concern is this guy isn't going to be able to hit the ground running. Puts BYU fans in kind of a quandary. Do you cheer for the Suns to go far in the NBA playoffs and kind of build his resume, or do you cheer for him for an early exit so he can put all of his time into BYU? I think it's paramount that he just gets some assistance as quickly as possible. Even at least one this week would seem to be, helpful. I noticed Nick Robinson was there last night. He's obviously probably still doing a lot of kind of the work for BYU. Director of basketball operations Nate Austin was there. But yeah, that's. I think now the kind of the euphoria of making this hire that everybody seems to applaud is the next couple of days is going to wear off a little bit, and harsh reality is going to set in, and that is there's a lot of work to do, especially in this day and age of the transfer portal, where not only do you have to go out and try to find new recruits, you got to recruit your own roster. So it's going to keep him busy. There's no question about that.
Can you speak to the relationship that Mark Pope had with some movers and shakers in terms of coaches, AAU type guys? Because it seems like it wasn't very good. I heard a lot of negative stuff there, and we saw a couple of guys that maybe he could have had that didn't choose to go there. I don't know if they'll change their minds or whatever down the line. That remains to be seen. But how much do you know about that in terms of Young being able to establish good relationships with these guys?
Yeah, I don't have any specifics, and I don't want to kind of throw out kind of like rumors and innuendo, but I have heard it more than once. When there's smoke, there's fire, I guess you could say, that a lot of these AAU coaches, the traveling all-star coaches in Utah, and even some outside the state, weren't really fond of Mark Pope and maybe the way that he recruited or the way that he might have made promises to players that were really difficult to deliver on. So yeah, I think there's something to that. Will Kevin Young have better chances with these guys? Will he, get in more closely with them? His brother, I think his name is Justin Young, is one of those. He runs this hoop scene website. He's apparently a guru Jake could probably speak more to this than me, but with high school basketball recruiting and being in touch with all these coaches and summer league coaches and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that in this whole switch is probably going to be a net positive for BYU in that regard.
His resume is so distinguished, I guess. I don't know if that's exactly the right word. And Danny Ainge seems to have been impressed with him a decade ago. There's a certain amount of this. It seems like this was just destined to happen, with a possible exception of he was so well thought of in the NBA. Why would he want to go to the college game? And I guess cynically you could say, well, 7 years and $30 million makes you want to do it. And it is a chance to be a head coach. So I guess there's that. Were you surprised by this at some level?
I was surprised. I guess, right after, it was kind of the news broke that Mark Pope was headed for Kentucky, I hurried and put out here are the guys BYU should look at or Tom Holmoe should call. And I didn't list Kevin Young. I'm kind of embarrassed by that now. But my thinking was that 5 years ago, I thought they would really target Alex Jensen. And basically I was told that, hey, that would be crazy. Why would a guy on the fast track to an NBA head coaching job or would, go to a mid-major? But money talks, as you guys know. and that's probably what the difference is this year or this time around, this cycle. But Patrick had a great question. I started it off with a really great question. I thought it was the question of the night, and about was it hard for him to give up kind of his NBA dreams to come to BYU, and his response was even more surprising than the fact that PK actually asked a good question.
Oh, that's a shot.
Just kidding, PK.
All I've done for this guy. All I've done for him.
Oh yeah. Where was I? Kevin Young basically said, "Hey, it's never really been a dream of mine to be an NBA head coach." That was somewhat shocking.
Yeah, I agree.
thought. Pretty surprising.
Surprising, yeah, no doubt.
And almost like and then I asked him later, kind of like, when did this thought cross your mind of ever being the coach at BYU? Because let's face it, he's not a BYU guy. He didn't grow up a BYU fan. His family, I think his wife went to BYU, but he doesn't really have that, doesn't seem to have that affinity yet for the place like a Kalani Sitake had,
right?
Who was sitting right there in the front row watching everything, and probably wondering about where that money came from for that kind of a contract.
Oh, I bet he can guess. I bet he can guess where it came from.
Yeah, I know. We all know where it came from, but so yeah, that was but when Kevin Young said that, he's known Danny Ainge for 10 years and kind of that's when, in the last 5 years ago, when they talked to him about the job, that's kind of where the thought really became kind of took seed and took ground that, one day he could do it, and now here we are.
How much do you think Ainge and Ryan Smith played into it?
Oh, a huge part. I mean, it has their fingerprints all over it. There's, and I don't think they're denying it. Although, Danny Ainge's reaction at the press Jazz, locker room clean out press conference was kind of disingenuous a little bit. He acted surprised, but no, I think they probably both acknowledged that, this was their guy, and this is the guy that they wanted and they were able to get.
There's no reason to back away from it. If you're the AD, if you're Tom Holmoe or you're Brian Santiago, why wouldn't you call Danny Ainge? I mean, honestly, it'd be malpractice. They wouldn't be doing their job right if they didn't call their most distinguished alumni, who is completely wired into the world of basketball, to find out what he thought. That would be a horrific decision if they didn't do that. So they did it.
Oh, yeah.
This is a guy that
sure.
Ainge has been impressed with for at least a decade, maybe more. But we know he interviewed the G League job because Danny offered that up when, back in Boston. So, I mean, you can see how this works out. This is
For sure. Yeah, I don't blame him. And I mean, you got to, in this day and age, especially with NIL and everything else, you got to lean on your boosters. You got to. I mean, that's the only way you're going to get ahead is you got to use every resource you got. And obviously, Danny Ainge with his resume and what he's done and his name throughout the country, and in basketball, you absolutely have to. Like you said, DJ, it'd be malpractice if you didn't. And I think BYU fans expect that. I think Tom Homo is not really a basketball guy. Brian Santiago is. And I think, I mean, if you go to any Jazz games and you look, more often than not, Brian Santiago's right down there sitting right next to Danny Ainge and Ryan Smith.
Yep.
And so, obviously you can see how this all came together.
They talk big dreams. I remember when Dave Rose was hired, I was working for the newspaper at the time, so went down there, covered it all and all that stuff. And, we're going to get to Final Four. That's the goal, blah, 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 blah. And so everybody talks about that, right? And I think that, those are all great dreams and goals to achieve. But I think it's clear to me if BYU wants to achieve at that level, they're going to need to have a significant portion of their roster not be Latter-day Saints and particularly not be returned missionaries, right? Because they need that type of talent. And going away for 2 years, I don't think it helps your game. But anyway, the point I'm making is that Pope started to do that, started bringing a fair amount of LDS guys, or non-LDS guys, I should say. And I heard from someone high up, when are we going to get back to recruiting missionaries and Mormon kids? And so how do you think Young is going to handle that? Because there's still an old guard who thinks we need to win with our people. And if we can't win with our people, then so be it. And there's a new guard that says, who cares whose people they are? We just want to win. As long as they either keep the standards or don't get caught, that's all that matters. It's a delicate balance there, and I've talked to administrators about this many times over the years, that you got to be careful on your roster construction because you have to bring in guys who are willing to at least say they'll abide by the rules and the regulations and the honor code and all that stuff. And I'm wondering, how do you think that's going to be for Young, as he's not a BYU guy? Steve Cleveland did it, and right off the bat, when I was premier guys got busted for smoking dope, blah, 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 got kicked off the team. And Dave Rose had a couple issues here and there on that. So speak to that for us.
Yeah, I think Kevin Young, I think he's going to kind of take, I don't want to say his marching orders, but I think Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge are going to be a big role in this. And I think they're going to, I don't think they're going to be pushing the return missionaries and the LDS kids and the Utah County kids that and Dave Rose, relied on. And granted, some of those Utah County kids were really talented, like TJ Haas and that, and Tyler and Nick Emery for a little bit of the time. And Eric Mika, that's another one that was a good player there. But yeah, I think Ryan Smith has already shown in a lot of his other kind of things he's done with the Jazz and with different trying to make inclusive things that he's done. I think that's kind of the message that will be sent to Coach Young, and so I think they'll move away from it. And then yesterday was kind of interesting that the Colin Chandler news. If that that kind of was, I don't know, really kind of hurtful for BYU. That was a huge blow, if you ask me. I don't know if you guys talked a lot about it on the radio, but
sure,
him moving on to Kentucky, there's a return missionary and everything that ended up kind of biting BYU because, if he had maybe played right out of high school and had already had his career going, maybe he doesn't follow Mark Pope to Kentucky. So there's pros and cons about the whole, using missionaries that much and return missionaries, and it'll be really interesting to see how he does at Kentucky. That'll be really, really fascinating, especially if he's got mission legs and people expect him to come in and be a contributor right away. I think the rest of the country is going to kind of find out that this isn't a slam dunk using these return missionaries that some people, other coaches, rival coaches think it is. with the maturity and all that. There's a lot of other drawbacks. So yeah, I think BYU is kind of really slowly moving towards being more, kind of a non-LDS flair to their marquee sports. And I really think Kevin Young, with his ties to the NBA and the recruiting world, I think he'll probably even move farther away from that.
Jay, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for coming on, and we will talk to you again down the road. Enjoy your summer.
Yeah, we'll try. Got this coaching search over with now, so that's kind of a relief for a lot of us in the business. You're not on pins and needles every day worrying about getting scooped. So,
well, kick back, man, and enjoy your time.
Well, we got the NFL draft next week, and then after that, then I'm seriously going to wonder what I'm going to be writing about. So
basketball transfer portal and recruiting. You got that in the mix.
Yeah, that's 24/7 nowadays, so year round. So, okay, guys, thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Jay. Jay Drew, BYU beat writer for the Deseret News. Mike Weir, former Masters champ, coming up at 9:00. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Phoenix Suns associate head coach Kevin Young is filing a long-term deal to become the next head coach at BYU. That's a huge hire. Kevin Young is the top assistant in the NBA right now. This is beyond best case scenario for the Cougars. This is a who's who of coaches. This is a real muscle flex from BYU to show that they still have a ton of power. I'm stunned. In all honesty, that's a crazy hire. He interviewed for the Jazz job before Will Hardy got it. He's been interviewing for the Raptors job. You are not getting NBA coaches leaving the NBA when their next job is an NBA head coaching job to go to college. That is crazy. Now, what does he do with the job? Can he recruit? How does he get players, et cetera, et cetera? Those are all very big storylines, but you could not have hit a better grand slam. He might be a better coach than Mark Pope.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Join Hans and Scotty Friday at Spa Trouvé in Highland, located at 5455 West. Yeah. 11,000 North.
110th North.
110th North is what we're going with? That's not what it says.
I'm trying to help you out.
Yeah, I know. Stop in and say hi to Hans and Scotty G. They'll be broadcasting live from noon to 3.
Oh, brother. It is a tongue twister a little bit.
11000.
I just read it as it is every time I've had to do it. Let them figure it out. You're giving them out there because you ever do
11,000 North.
Yeah. If you ever do the MapQuest, they'll go 11,000 E. They won't say the East the way it is pronounced here. And when I first got here, man, it's what are you guys talking about?
I did. I had to mail something here when I was applying for a job, and they gave me a number, 2185 South. I'm like, okay, 3600 East. What? You already gave me a number. And my agent was like, that's the way they do things. Just put it down, and it'll get there.
Oh, Scott Boras?
No, not Scott Boras.
He slipped in my agent. Your agent, yeah.
Not anymore.
All right, I know. You fired her. She didn't get you enough money. And you hired Scott Boras, and now look at you. You got a big TV.
Nope. That's not how it happened. You're just making stuff up. I think it's
precisely how it happened.
Nope. Not how it happened.
What's the
paycheck is why I live in Utah.
Yeah. That'd be paychecks, multiple streaming venues of financial wherewithal.
I got a big TV. Streaming, what was that?
Streaming venues of financial wherewithal. You heard me. What are you looking at the sky for?
You saved the school $600,000?
600,000.
It's an SVFW.
That's called the first quarter for me.
That a kid. Go get him.
There's a reason why you're much better friends with Ryan Smith than I am.
I always have problems with reality. Much better friends.
I don't run in those circles, man. I'm down here. I'm an upper bowl guy.
Sex sells, PK.
Yeah, that's why they hired me.
Sex sells, PK. So as long as you're talking about Ryan Smith's new project, I don't know how new it is, but back in the headlines project. With the new project, I guess, would be hockey. The back in the headlines would be BYU basketball. He's been a BYU basketball fan for a long time.
Stan Watts days.
He's not that old. Stan Watts to the Elite Eight.
All right.
Expectations for the new coach. And he did say win a national championship. So if you just want to hold him to his words, but I'm with you. That's the kind of thing, you're supposed to say. You say
guys, we're going to be lucky if we squeak in the tournament. I'm getting $4 million, unprecedented. I'm the freaking highest paid employee on the BYU campus.
Yes.
I just hope to break 500.
It's got to be a little higher than that. But for a program that's won 4 tournament games in 30 years, and one of those was a playing game in Dayton, so 3 games in the field of 64 proper.
It's a tournament game, but I get your point.
2 trips to the round of 32, 1 to the Sweet 16.
I mean, they're not paying him over $4 million to come in here and be mediocre, so it's obvious.
I agree, but how much winning? Sweet 16, that satisfies you?
Yes.
Elite 8,
yes.
Final 4.
Final 4 things have to break your way. You have to, if you're a program like BYU, and maybe he can elevate it, but if you're a program like BYU, you're going to have somebody in the bracket upset somebody else. And then you take advantage of that.
Looking at you, NC State.
Whatever it might be, yeah. And so you have to have some breaks go your way. If you're a Kentucky, and I get it, they've stumbled the last couple of years, you shouldn't be needing that.
The expectations at Kentucky are you will take care of business.
Mark Pope, and he's been being crapped on a lot here of late. He had a good season. It was one game, and it didn't work, and so that spoiled it to a degree. But if you can step back a little bit from that, it's hard. He had a good season. He brought in a lot of different types of players, non-LDS guys, foreign guys. Jackson Robinson, an American dude, brought him in and developed him. He's in the program. He got better, and that's what we've been screaming for BYU. That's one of the ways they have to have success, is not constantly change over the roster every year, which is an epidemic to a degree that goes far beyond anything that Mark Pope should be faulted for. But you can't be doing that. You have to have some continuity. Dave Rose did that. We talked about it at length with so many role player guys who got better in the program. And Jackson Robinson, primary example. Keeney Young comes in the program. By the time he leaves, he's Mountain West Conference Player of the Year. He wasn't even close to that in the beginning. Same with Jimmer, obviously. And so you need those types of guys. So he's going to have to do that, and expectations are higher because everybody knows he's getting paid over $4 million. And I listened to the interview that they did on the BYU TV with Tom Holmoe. We never talk about contracts, and we never will. You don't have to because it's already out there. You can button it up all you want, but we already know about it. And there you go. Everybody knows about it, and you're going to pay that kind of dough. It's not going to be sneaking into the tournament. It's not going to be going where they go, KC. Is that where and they're going to have that? They extended that, right?
Yeah, the T-Mobile
I was going to
Center.
say going to Vegas, but it's not about that. It's going to KC now where, oh my gosh, we got to win 1 or 2 games to get in. No, you got to be in before you get there like you were this year. That's the expectation.
Multiple Sweet 16s would be a win.
Yeah, but it's got to be season long too. All the way, like Pope did this year. And obviously more results at the end.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Mike Ware, former Masters champ, next right here on The Zone.